What's going on YouTube? This your boy Jamelio7 with Sinister 7 Gaming, and in this video I kind of wanted to bring the news of the perfect shield tank build in Division 2. I think it addresses survivability, tankiness, controlling the battle, stepping over the bodies. It also puts out great damage. I think one of my biggest gripes with being a primary shield tank pistol user is that um, the kill times are not as high as other guns or other types of tanky builds. And don't get me wrong, this is not going to change that at all, but it is a definite improvement. I made this video a couple months ago with the addition of the Summer Swarm cast series. I was able to make a big upgrade to the build. So as you can see, I am running a NinjaBike backpack. Nothing major there, but and that's allowing me to run 3 pieces of Boundary Full of Bulwark, which is the best tanking set in the game. Like, that's hands down. If you're not familiar with Boundary Full Bulwark, basically what happens is whenever you or your shield take damage, 25% of that damage is refunded to you over 10 seconds to both you and your shield. It gives you 10% total armor, which is amazing for tanking. You get 1% armor regen, and you get 50% shield health, which is equivalent to one level, one skill tier for your shield, which is great. In this rendition of the build, I am running the Lickmo bomb armor chest piece. The reason I went with Lickmo, I was running the DH, and for people who want to be a little bit more spicy, you can run the Douglas and Hardy. You get the extra 20% pistol damage and stability, but I opted for the Lickmo mostly because of the explosion resistance, because you get 10% from your wax getting to 1,000, but you also get this 20% explosion resistance, and you get the 20% more skill health. And what I noticed in soloing legendaries is that extra shield health for how I run the chest piece, which is with glass cannon, it allows you to tank more chunga hits in the build, as opposed to just running the base Douglas and Hardy. And because with the Lickmo, your shield is almost 18 million, and that's crazy in itself. But with the Douglas and Hardy, you only have like 14 and a half, so you get an extra almost 3 million to help you with that. On all my pieces, I run crit chance. On two of the pieces, I'm running crit damage. I'm running the Tormal kneepads. If you're not familiar with the Tormal kneepads, they're basically exotics that are not exotics, but what they do for you is they, when you're dealing weapon damage to an enemy, it splits the damage in half, and it does damage to another enemy within 30 meters. And that ties into what I was saying as far as being able to get faster clears, and your time to kill is faster because you're killing 2 targets instead of 1. For pistols, you're probably thinking that, alright, pistols are not doing a lot of damage, so splitting the damage is actually weakening the damage. But that's where the glass cannon comes in, because your pistol damage is actually being, well, all damage that you're doing is actually being amplified by 25%. If you don't know, the interaction between the Bewildering talent and the glass cannon works like this. When you shoot a target, the half that's hitting the target is amplified, right? Then it's split, and then the half that's hitting the other target is amplified again. So you're actually double dipping with the amplified damage. So it's amplifying the damage twice on the back end. The cool thing about that is actually a DPS increase, because yeah, the second target is getting getting amplified twice. So the second target is actually, that damage is actually 50% amplified in a way. But when you're doing, when you're, say for instance you're shooting the boss and he's the last target, that target is actually taking amplified damage on the first hit, and then it's splitting, because it's still splitting even when you hit a single target. It still splits, and then that second amount of damage is being amplified again. So I think that interaction is real cool. More crit chance, more crit chance, and then on the backpack I'm running crit damage, and on the chest I'm running crit damage. If you wanted to look at the stats, because I'm primarily running the pistol, you get about 57% crit chance and over 100% crit damage, which is dope, on top of 120% headshot damage. The gun I'm using a Harvest, and as you see, I have expertise 11%. So for people who have high expertise, you're gonna do a lot more damage. On the Harvest, I'm using Optimist because it only has 6 bullets, so the weapon damage is being boosted by a whole lot really quickly, and it's constantly happening. So I think Optimist is probably the best talent for a gun like this. Another honorable mention is the Liberty. The Liberty handgun has always been tried and true. The only reason I don't personally use the Liberty, because it starts off at a lower base. Like if you look at it, it starts off at 370, and then once you get your 2% stacks, it's another 60%. So what is that? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So you get another 180,000 damage, which brings you out to 550. But as soon as you hit a headshot, it disappears. So I would take the lower rate of fire, the lower magazine size, and the lower damage ceiling on the Harvest for the ability to get headshots. On top of, you get a maximum of 35% on that last bullet from the Harvest while shooting. So I just think overall the Harvest is better. We do have the Tempest on our Horizon, so I've played around a little. Played around with the 93R. The 93R does respectable damage. I would have to tweak it a little bit for a burst or a fully automatic pistol, but it does respectable damage. As far as your primary and secondary, you can use whatever you want. I'm using the Bulwark shield, like you see, and I'm also using the artificial hive, because just to keep your shield up and running. That's a real big thing for the build. As far as modifiers, I typically have 100% disrupt resistance on my shield, because of the 50% you get from having 5 electronic tiers, and then the 45% that you get from having 5 stamina tiers. And then I just run protection from elites to further get the protection. I run tech link for those times when you are taking heaps of damage and your shield goes down. You can just pop this and get a much stronger shield back. Also, if you look at the turmo, you're getting hazard protection, so that ties into the whole build. You have the crit chance and the hazard protection. That's why your pistol has such a high crit rate. But all in all, this build is a monster. You can run it in any content, solo, group, whatever. You can hold your own. You're going to be putting up respectable DPS numbers in any setting, on any content in the game, even master missions. I just love this build, and I'm glad that people are going to be able to get the Tarmo kneepads at least for another week and a half, and just be able to play around with different builds. I've been waiting because I missed the first opportunity to get these kneepads. Now I have them and never turn them back. this is my favorite build. This is always shield. Like I said, shield builds have always been my go-to. But into the next one, this your boy Jamelio with Sinister 7 Gaming. Peace.